Hi, this is Greg Thomas, and welcome to the Welsh American Channel. Individuals of Welsh descent had a profound and significant impact on the founding principles of the American Republic. In this video, we will look at the rich legacy of the Lewis family. Both Francis Lewis and his son Morgan Lewis were remarkable American patriots. Francis Lewis was an American merchant and a founding father of the United States. He was a signatory of the United States Declaration of Independence and Articles of Confederation as a representative of New York in the Continental Congress. Lewis was born in Llandaff, Wales on March 21, 1713. For my fellow Americans who are unfamiliar with the geography of Wales, Llandaff is a community in the north of Cardiff, capital of Wales. It was incorporated into the city in 1922. Francis Lewis was the only child of a minister, Morgan Lewis and Anne Lewis of Newport, Wales. Orphaned at an early age and raised by his relatives, Lewis was educated at Westminster School in London. He apprenticed at a mercantile house in London until he turned 21, and then inherited some properties left by his father. Lewis sold the properties and used the proceeds to acquire merchandise. Setting for sail for New York City, he arrived there in 1734 or 1735. He left some of the goods in New York to be sold by Edward Annesley, his business partner, and brought the rest to Philadelphia. As you may recall from previous videos on this channel, Philadelphia had an influential Welsh community within the city. For example, Welshman Edward Roberts was the colonial mayor of Philadelphia from 1739 to 1740. Earlier, Griffith Jones was the fourth mayor of the city from 1704 to 1705. After 2 years in Philadelphia, Lewis returned to New York. In 1745, Lewis married Elizabeth Annesley, a sister of his business partner. Together, they were the parents of 7 children, 3 of whom survived to adulthood. Lewis made several transatlantic trips, visiting several northern European ports, St. Petersburg, northern Scotland, and Africa. During the French and Indian War in 1756, while functioning as a clothing contractor for British troops at Fort Oswego in present-day New York, Lewis was taken captive at Fort Oswego in August of 1756 and was among 30 captives given to the Native American allies of the French. Fortunately, Lewis found the Native Americans' language like the native language of Wales and was able to speak to them. Their chief treated Lewis kindly and returned him to Montreal, requesting that he be returned to his family. But instead, Lewis was sent to France as a prisoner. He eventually returned to the colonies in a prisoner exchange in 1763. Upon his release, the British government awarded him a large land grant of 5,000 acres in New York as compensation for the lost 7 years of his life. He returned to New York City, re-entered business, and quickly earned a fortune. In 1765, he retired to the village of Whitestone, now part of Flushing on Long Island. But in 1771, he temporarily returned to New York City to help his son Francis Lewis Jr. enter the business world, even probably making a voyage to England with him. He helped his son to open a dry goods business named Francis Lewis and Son. Francis Lewis Jr. also served as a church warden of St. George's Parish in Flushing, New York, as did his father. Back home, Lewis devoted most of his energies to the growing revolutionary movement, which he had joined in 1765 by attending the Stamp Act Congress. He was also likely one of the leaders of the New York Sons of Liberty. It was a loosely organized and clandestine political organization active in the 13 colonies, founded to advance the rights of colonists to fight taxation by the British government. Francis Lewis also became a member of the Committee of 60. This was an agreement in New York by rebels to enforce the agreement among the American colonies adopted by the First Continental Congress in Philadelphia in October of 1774. It called for a trade boycott against British merchants by the colonies. Francis Lewis was also a member of the New York Provincial Congress and a delegate to the Continental Congress from 1775 to 1779. In 1776, he signed the United States Declaration of Independence, and in 1778, he signed the United States Articles of Confederation. In 1779, he served as chairman of the Continental Board of Admiralty. Back in 1775, Lewis had acquired and relocated his family to an estate located at Whitestone in present-day Queens. The home was later destroyed during the American Revolutionary War by British soldiers who also arrested his wife Elizabeth and denied her a change of clothing or adequate food for weeks while in captivity. Her hardships in captivity ruined her health and led to her premature death in 1778 after being released in a prisoner exchange. Few other signers felt the tragedy of the war for independence more directly than Francis Lewis, whose wife prematurely died because of British imprisonment. To further the cause, he also expended a considerable portion of the fortune he had acquired as a merchant. He lost all of his property on Long Island, New York, to the destruction of the Revolutionary War. In the Continental Congress, Lewis rarely took the floor, but served on Marine, Foreign Affairs, and Commerce committees, as well as sitting on the Board of Admiralty and engaging in troop supply matters. He defended General George Washington from the attacks of the Conway Cabal. The Conway Cabal was a group of senior Continental Army officers in late 1777 and early 1778 who plotted to have George Washington replaced as Commander-in-Chief of the Army during the American Revolutionary War. After the death of his wife, the grief-stricken Lewis immediately left Congress, but remained on the Board of Admiralty until 1781, at which time he abandoned politics altogether. He lived in retirement with his sons and died in 1802 at the age of 89 in New York City. Lewis died on December 31st, 1802, although his memorial in Trinity Church Cemetery gives his year of death as 1803. Francis Lewis's second son, Morgan Lewis, was born in 1754. Like his father, this son of a Welsh merchant achieved remarkable success. He fought in both the American Revolutionary War and the War of 1812. In 1774, he joined the American Revolutionary War as a volunteer in the Continental Army. He rose through the military ranks until Morgan was appointed Quartermaster General of the Northern Army. In 1775, he planned and executed the night attack on Stone Arabia and was in command at the Battle of Crown Point, where New York Governor George Clinton accompanied him. He was prominent throughout the campaign that ended with the surrender of British General John Burgoyne at Saratoga, New York. After the war, he completed his legal studies. In 1779, he married Gertrude Livingston, and together they had a daughter, Margaret. Lewis was elected to the New York State Assembly in 1789 and 1792. He was New York State Attorney General from December of 1791 until October of 1801, and later Justice and Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of New York in 1801. Finally, he served as the Governor of New York from 1804 to 1807. Prior to the War of 1812, Lewis declined the office of U.S. Secretary of War under President James Madison. Instead, he resumed his duties as Quartermaster General and served in western New York. Morgan Lewis was commissioned as a Brigadier General on April 3, 1812, and was promoted to Major General on March 2, 1813, as part of his service on the Niagara frontier. In 1792, Lewis had purchased an estate covering about 334 acres in Plattsburgh, New York, and commissioned the construction of a colonial-style house. In the summer of 1824, the Marquis de Lafayette dined there while visiting the United States on his way upriver to visit Lewis's brother-in-law, Chancellor Livingston. But in 1832, the house was destroyed by a fire said to be an act of arson committed by disgruntled tenant farmers. After the fire, Lewis and his wife immediately replaced the structure with a Greek Revival mansion with 25 rooms. From 1832 to 1835, he was the president of the Historical Society of New York. Lewis was also an original member of the New York Society of the Cincinnati and served as its president general from 1839 to 1844. He also helped to found New York University in New York City. Morgan Lewis died in New York City on April 7, 1844. Can you think of any other individuals who served in so many offices and roles in their lifetime? Welsh Americans like Francis Lewis and his son Morgan Lewis became revolutionaries because the American colonies, separated by an ocean from Britain, offered them a great degree of freedom, opportunity, and prosperity. They put their lives on the line, either by signing a death warrant like the United States Declaration of Independence, or by giving up their personal fortunes, or by witnessing the early death of their loved ones, or by serving in battle in 2 wars. As Welsh American Thomas Jefferson wrote in the concluding sentence of the United States Declaration of Independence, quote, "And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor." End of quote. Brave individuals like Francis and Morgan Lewis give real meaning to the definition of founding fathers. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel or give us a like, and please feel free to make any comments below. If you would like to see more biographies of leading Welsh Americans, give us a like. And if you have an individual you would like us to showcase, let me know in the comments below. This is Greg Thomas saying Hoylem Nawr. Bye for now.